Boruto's Jogan remains to be one of the most highly anticipated awakenings in the entire series. It's been so long since its first appearance, many fans are beginning to wonder whether this dojutsu is even canon at this point. However, with the introduction of Kashin Koji's new 10 Direction Shinjutsu, a lot of people have begun to wonder why Kashin Koji has not told Boruto about this awakening, or even tried to lead Boruto towards unlocking this dojutsu. Well, in this video, I'm going to discuss exactly why I think Kashin Koji hasn't told Boruto yet, and also why the Jogan is actually coming much sooner than you think. But before we get into that, if you are enjoying the content at the moment, then please consider subscribing, as I'm trying to reach 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And by subscribing, you can help me reach that goal, and all of your guys' support is muchly appreciated. Anyways, with that said, let's get into this video. So my initial thoughts as to why Kashin Koji has kept this awakening from Boruto is because Kashin Koji himself is yet to actually see this dojutsu inside of Boruto. Now this may confuse a lot of people because 10 Directions allows Kashin Koji to see all possible futures, so how would he have not seen the Jogan in any of said futures? And I think there's actually many ways that he wouldn't be able to see something like the Jogan. Firstly, it may come down to how Boruto would actually awaken the Jogan, but as of right now, the only information we have of the Jogan comes from the anime, since in the manga, apart from it being briefly showcased in that flash forward sequence, it hasn't even been mentioned. But in the anime, the Jogan came about seemingly randomly, but at the same time, it was almost essential for it to come when it did. Now, a theme that has been played on primarily in Blue Vortex is the idea of divine intervention, or fate altering possible futures. Essentially, Boruto's Jogan may have came as a result of a higher power, essentially bestowing this power upon Boruto when he needs it most. I would definitely say that could be considered a change in fate, and subsequently, it isn't something Kashin Koji can foresee. And this would also align with Boruto's character, with Boruto being shown many times to be able to change fate itself. It happened with Momoshiki, where Boruto's fate was to allow Momoshiki to take over his body after omnipotence occurred, but this didn't end up happening, and hence Momoshiki also couldn't foresee this moment when he used 10 Directions. And hence, because this was a change in fate, Momoshiki was not able to foresee this moment happening using 10 Directions. 10 Directions is a godly power, however it does have its limitations, where there are some things that come from a place of even higher power that exceed the capabilities of the Shinjutsu, meaning that if something comes from the higher power that I just described, then unfortunately the power of Shinjutsu will not be able to detect something like that occurring. Boruto is often regarded as the boy who can change fate itself, so the Jogan's awakening may be considered another one of those moments where divine intervention occurred to allow Boruto to protect their world from the likes of Jura. However, with that said, Toneri was actually able to foresee that Boruto would in the distant future be able to awaken this dojutsu once again, especially when their world was at threat from greater godly powers. So if the Jogan was supposed to change fate itself, and hence be unseeable for 10 Directions, then why could Toneri using 10 Directions be able to see it? Well, it may come down to the fact that Toneri actually is tied into the reason that the Jogan is a power hidden inside of Boruto in the first place. Before Toneri was sealed away by Urashiki, he seemed frustrated that Toneri had done something to Boruto, implying that the Jogan, which appears later in the anime after this scene, was actually Toneri's doing. Which is why Toneri can foresee the future where Boruto awakens his dojutsu, because he was the one that instilled it in Boruto in the first place. But that theory does have many flaws in it, so I think a more plausible explanation could be an idea a lot of people are foreseeing, which is Kashin Koji's death. It seems pretty clear that Kashin Koji's purpose in the story is very similar to that of Jiraiya's in Naruto's story. So it would be a great parallel to that character to have Kashin Koji die in a similar way. And with Kashin Koji being the primary target of almost the entire world at this point, it only seems like a matter of time before his days are numbered. But what does the death of Kashin Koji have anything to do with the Jogan? Well, I think there is actually two things that we can deduct from this. One of these is the power of 10 Directions might be limited to the lifespan of a user. This would mean that if Kashin Koji were to die, then the 10 Directions futures that he can foresee only reach up to the point of his death. And hence the Jogan would come at a point beyond Kashin Koji's death, which is why Kashin Koji cannot foresee this awakening and try to get Boruto to awaken it as soon as possible. But the only problem I have with this idea is the fact that in chapter 16 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, Kashin Koji stated that he could see that it took Boruto 6 years to master the flying Raijin Jutsu, which obviously implies that Kashin Koji isn't dead in 3 years beyond the point we are currently at in the story. And it's obviously extremely unlikely that we are going to undergo another 3-year time skip. With the threat of Jura already being established and the rapid growth of his army, he isn't just going to sit around idly for almost 3 years. And Boruto and Konoha won't simply let him continue to grow in power, as Kashin Koji stated that their best way of defeating him would be to reduce his numbers one by one. So we can rule out the possibility that we're going to go another 3-year time skip. However, I do think there is actually a way around this problem where Kashin Koji can see 6 years into the future. So in said future, where Boruto spent 6 years trying to master the flying Raijin Jutsu, it was somewhat clear that Kashin Koji and Boruto hadn't yet interacted with one another. And it also means that Jura and the Shinju at this point were likely not a threat, as Boruto was still training rather than trying to deal with them. So I believe that Boruto re-entering the village in most timelines acts as the catalyst for Ko to make his move and also for the Shinju to awaken. But if Boruto hadn't entered the village and caused all this to occur, it also means that Kashin Koji wasn't under threat in this given timeline, since Boruto hadn't made anyone aware of Kashin Koji's existence, since he spent 6 years trying to master this jutsu instead, which is why Kashin Koji could see 6 years into the future, but only in this specific scenario. But given 10 Directions provides all possible futures, I'm sure there are many futures where Kashin Koji's visions or timelines are just simply cut off short, and this likely occurs when he ends up dying in that said future. However, what I'm trying to get at here is Kashin Koji will die at different points in different timelines, and hence he can see further or shorter depending on where he dies in said timeline, which is why he could see 6 years into the future in that specific scenario, since there was nothing threatening him. But in their current situation, there is many people hunting him down. So in the future that we are currently in that he's foreseen, he will die before Boruto's Jogan even appears. And this would be an equal limitation to the Senrigan, another very similar Shinjutsu ability, where Ada can only see events that occurred up to the day that she was born. So it would make sense for Kashin Koji that he also cannot see beyond the point of his death. But Kashin Koji's death kind of takes me on to the other thing I mentioned tying Kashin Koji to the Jogan, which is maybe Kashin Koji's death will serve as a trigger for this awakening inside of Boruto. Boruto has grown very close to Kashin Koji after spending presumably 2 years training with him, so seeing his sensei die, similar to what happened with Sasuke, is going to make Boruto feel extremely guilty. Boruto was already in a desperate need for power after Sasuke was consumed, as Boruto blamed his own lack of power for Sasuke getting eaten in that scenario, but it was Kashin Koji that saved Boruto from that desperation and offered him an opportunity to get stronger. But if Kashin Koji were to die, Boruto would feel that guilt build up again, where his lack of power has caused other people to get hurt. And similar to the Uchiha Senrigan, maybe the Jogan will come at a moment where Boruto is feeling a large emotional reaction. And also, that desperation for power could trigger a change in fate or divine intervention, causing Boruto's Jogan to appear. And we know with Kawaki that the Otsutsuki can actually trigger awakenings when they are desperate for power, or at least that seems to be something the Otsutsuki are capable of. So it would make sense for Boruto, similar to his own brother, in a state of desperation for power, would be granted the Jogan to fulfill this. So Kashin Koji's death in every future may be the cause for the Jogan to appear, and hence why he has never been able to see the Jogan in all of these possible futures, because it always comes at a point after his death, which is something that he cannot see. I think all of these options are viable, but I do want to fully cover all the possibilities as to why Kashin Koji hasn't told Boruto about the Jogan. So apart from Kashin Koji simply not being able to see the awakening for whatever reason, perhaps he has seen it and is intentionally hiding it from Boruto. But why on earth would he actually be doing this? Well, I think there is actually a number of reasons, but most likely it comes down to what Kashin Koji discussed with Boruto in chapter 16 of 2 Blue Vortex. Kashin Koji told to Boruto that the reason he can't go around telling people about the future or try and force them to do things with them knowing that this will happen to them somewhere down the line is because this will cause that person who is aware of the future to begin to act differently, which will not only cause the event to likely not occur due to them acting differently and almost expecting something to happen, causing it to never come about, but it will also cause their fate to alter. Subsequently, Kashin Koji, although calling Boruto a point of singularity, as somebody who is aware of the future, he doesn't want to tell Boruto everything, as even though they have become points of singularity, the more even they become aware of about the future, the more it is going to alter said future timelines, simply due to the nature of the shinjutsu, no matter who is gathering that information. And hence perhaps Kashin Koji wants to ensure that Boruto doesn't find out about the Jogan through him, and this will allow Boruto to naturally awaken this dojutsu. I think that this is probably the route the story will go down, as it will allow Boruto to still have some regression as a character, which we aren't aware will occur. As if Kashin Koji keeps withholding information from Boruto, it would eventually mean that for us readers, at least, there is some anticipation regarding the future of his character. And this could also tie into why Boruto in the flash forward sequence is using his karma, since as of right now, Boruto is afraid to use this ability due to the risk of Momoshiki. But maybe Kashin Koji can foresee Boruto using this ability in the future, and how it will also allow him to grow significantly in terms of power, but by not telling Boruto that he will end up using it, he will allow nature to do its course. And what I mean by that is even if Boruto became aware that if he used the karma it will all be okay, he likely still won't use the karma just because of the mental scar it actually has on him. So instead I think the probability of Boruto using his karma will be higher if Kashin Koji lets it happen naturally, and the same could be said for the Jogan. And just a last quick point before some of you say that the Jogan isn't actually canon, not only did I do an entire video dedicated to this, when Kishimoto said the eye was actually canon, but there have been many statements that the anime itself is actually canon, which would also validate that the Jogan is in fact a canon dojutsu. Anyways, realistically, this power of Boruto's is going to be the way they ultimately defeat Jura, and the reason I say this is because Kashin Koji has foreseen many futures where they end up defeating the Shinju, and this is why they're taking the current course of action to lower Jura's numbers slowly but surely, whilst they are in this grace period while Jura doesn't attack the village. But this also means that Konoha will have to get to the level of Jura at some point, and as it stands currently, they don't have anywhere near enough power, as Kashin Koji described their odds as less than 1 in a million. But given Kashin Koji sees there being a possible future where they win, it's likely that he foresees the Jogan, given its build up that Toneri gave it, where he said that the entire fate of the world would rely solely on the pure eye. It likely means that Kashin Koji is almost waiting for the time for this eye to awaken, and that is when it is their time to pounce on Jura. We also know that they ultimately win, since the flash forward sequence showcases Boruto and Kawaki fighting, which Kawaki said will only happen when Jura and the Shinju have been defeated, which kind of confirms they find a way to defeat him. But Kashin Koji is also waiting for another power to defeat Jura, and that's Kawaki's next awakening that will turn him to a near Otsushi god, the Karma V3. And if you want to check out the video where I discuss exactly why this power makes sense to arrive sooner than later, and its abilities, then make sure to check it out. I will leave a card for it on screen now. But with that said, that is going to be it for this video. If you did enjoy, then please smash the like button, as it pushes out this video to more and more people, and it also shows me that you're enjoying the content at the moment. Also, be sure to leave your thoughts on this video in the comments down below with anything that you want to contribute towards the theory, or if you have any criticisms for the video itself, then make sure just to leave it in the comments and I'll be sure to read it at some point in the future. And also, if you want to see more content like this, as well as support the channel, then be sure to subscribe, as we're trying to reach 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we need all of your guys' support to do that. Anyways, with that all said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.